Hi, I'm Ted from Immersion, and welcome back to this old dungeon. Today we'll be building another woodworking project, this time a custom dice tower that anyone can do with hand tools and pre-cut wood that you can purchase at any local home center. We have a miter saw and miter box, these 3 pieces of pre-cut wood, all told, we're talking less than $25 and no power tools required. So let's talk materials you're going to need to do this project, and then we'll talk a little bit about why we're going to do it. So right up front, we're going to need some form of saw, right? I went with this $10 Stanley miter box and miter saw combination. And this is probably going to be your best bang for your buck because you're going to be able to cut angles that you need to do to make this, and you also get the saw for free. You're also going to need a ruler, tape measure of some kind, something to mark your lines, pencil. You're going to need some kind of wood glue. I like Type Bond 2, but any kind of yellow wood glue will work just fine. And then you'll need your wood. So what I got here is some red oak wood. I believe this was from Lowe's. They were about $4 or $5 a board, and the reason I got it is they are 1/4 inch thick. And they come in pretty much the ready size cut pieces we're going to need to do this. So I decided I wanted to do this video and teach you all how to make a simple box dice tower. Mind you, I've never done this before, so we're going to learn as we go. And I decided rather than using my power tools, miter saw, table saw, circular saw, all these things that I have that would make this project a snap, I could do it extremely fast with those, I'd do it all with hand tools. I hate using hand saws and things like that, but all it takes is a little bit of elbow grease and around $10, and you should be able to do this yourself. So again, this should work for if you want to build this for a significant other. Maybe you got Valentine's Day coming up, that might be an option for you. Holidays in the future, birthdays, just to impress your DM, maybe try to get that extra magic item you're looking for, or just as a nice thing to give to your gaming group. It's going to be pretty simplistic. We're going to try to do as many of these with straight cuts as we can, and that's pretty much it. Also, again, I wanted to do this in December as a holiday thing because I'm going to actually give away the dice tower we make in this video, and my good friend Joe at RPG Dice cooked me up with a special custom set of holiday-themed dice. They were sort of candy cane themed for Christmas, so I guess now we'll kind of make them Valentine's Day themed since we'll be here in February by the time the giveaway ends. So, how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to cut a box, basically, and out of this red oak, this piece here, this strip is 3.5 inches wide, and this strip is 2.5 inches wide, and we're basically going to glue them together to make a box, and the same thing on the other side. So we need to cut 2 pieces of this and 2 pieces of this to start. That'll make us, inform our box, and then we'll go from there. I was originally thinking 6 inches, but I think 8 inches will be a good size, height for a dice tower. I think that's pretty standard across the board as dice towers go, so that should be that. I'm going to go ahead and open up our miter box real quick. There's perforations here on the side, so this just piece of cardboard just kind of, actually we might be able to just slide it off, but it'll just tear or not, and we'll just open it this way. And then there is a little plastic plug right here in the bottom. I think we might need to actually either break or hammer this out, and that's actually holding the saw in place. I don't think we can. Maybe we can just pry it. There we go. Alright, so we can get rid of this piece of cardboard now, and this little plastic plug that's inside our miter saw. Let me just go ahead and work that out. And here we go, brand new, fresh miter saw. And then we have over here the miter box, and you can see right along here are all the angles that I was talking about, right? So if you want to make a straight cut, you can just basically put the wood inside, drop your saw in, and just make your saws, your cuts, and then you need to do 45, and there's a bunch of different angles. They're all explained on that piece of cardboard that we dropped on the ground. So what I'm going to do now is put this off to the side, and I'm going to take our piece of wood here, use my tape measure. We're going to measure out 8 inches because that's how long we want our miter or our dice tower to be. I'll make a little mark at 8 inches, and then we'll drop it inside the miter box, and we'll make that cut. So I'm going to head and put our piece inside. You can see there's my mark there, and the miter box comes with these little pins that you basically put into any of these little holes that you can get it in, and these are designed to hold the piece, the work piece, in place so that it doesn't slip out of the spot. So actually I can actually measure and see. So we actually have to scooch our piece of wood over a little bit so we can get it in line with our saw here, right about there. Now what we're going to do, take another 8-inch measurement, slide the work piece down, and make that second cut. Alright, well, we have our two 8-inch pieces. Again, this is kind of going to be the front side of our box. And now basically all we're going to do, and I don't know if you saw it there, but I ended up actually using the other piece to make the measurement, and that was not a bad idea because that way your pieces are the same size. So now I'm going to take that 2.5-inch piece and basically do exactly the same thing, but cut the sides. Alright, now you can kind of get an idea of what our box is going to look like. We've got our 4 pieces here, and we will put our last piece kind of on top. And we'll go on the inside here, and then, you know, here's our box. So if I'm going to be taking these pieces and sort of joining them together on the edge like you see here, that's my plan. Honestly, at this point, I think we can probably just start gluing stuff together. So all I'm going to do is put a bead of glue along the side here, take off my sticker. Actually, you know what, we'll just have the sticker face inside. So we'll go ahead and run a bead of glue down the side of the box here, or the side of what's going to be the side of the box. Okay, and we just kind of want to smooth that out as best we can. We'll come back, clean that up, and then we'll just take it and stick it right on the edge of our larger piece here. We'll just kind of, the thing that we want to try to make sure we're doing here is getting this perfectly lined up on the edge. Now this glue will hold, it'll probably take about 20 to 30 minutes before it's fully held in place. This might actually hold in place just fine with gravity, and we might just put something on top of it. Alright, so now the other thing you want to try to do, if you can, is clean up as much of the glue ahead of time. Now I don't happen to have a wet rag, but if you do, you can just wipe that down, because that will just make your life easier when it comes to sanding later on. When you go to put your stain or your finish on, you want to not have any glue hanging out there. And again, you know, you just be as close as you can get to the edge. You're going to make your box as clean as possible. We now have our two sides are setting up, the glue's starting to set up. What I'm going to do is I'll take, this is going to be our front piece that we're just going to sit, you know, right on the front like this, but we can go ahead and rest something on top of that just to provide a little bit of downward pressure. Alright, we've had about 30 minutes go by, so I'm just going to take the glue off, take these pair of pliers off here, and we can remove our top piece. And as you can see here, we have a little 3-piece box. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our 2.5-inch piece, and basically we're going to sit it on here and kind of get an idea of about how long of a piece we want. Remember, it needs to be a baffle, but it also needs to allow the dice to go past it to have them come out. So I think if we make it about like that, I just made a little mark on it based on that. And again, I'm doing this completely without plans and by trial and error, so we'll see if we make a mistake, we make a mistake, and then, you know, we'll just have to go back and fix it. So here's the other thing. With what we just did, we want to cut that piece on an angle so that it can kind of sit up against the side wall here. So thankfully, we have our miter box, which allows us to make 45-degree cuts. We made our first sort of baffle in here, and because we cut it on that 45-degree angle, it can come in and sit, you know, right like that. So all we have to do is cut another baffle the same size for down here, and then that we should basically have the basis of a dice tower at that point. I did one, I showed you can do it that way. I'm going to just throw a clamp on here to help prevent this thing from shifting. We're going to take we have actually another, you know, corresponding 45-degree angle on this piece. So now we can just cut a 90-degree on here. What I'm actually going to do is just see if we can use the glue and its adhesion to just be the thing that holds it in place. But let's see, I think if we put it right about here, and I mean, an option you could do is just sit here and hold the wood in place till the glue dries. And if you've got, you know, 20 minutes to kill, that's a great way to, you know, guarantee that it stays there. But I give this a pretty good press in here. Honestly, that looks like it's holding. Just realized I should have been putting glue underneath the bottom of this as well. So I'm actually going to take this out and add some glue to this piece too, because we don't want this to fall down under the stress of dice kind of rolling over top of it. And this will actually help strengthen the bond quite a bit. With that glue on the back wall, I can already feel the strengthened bond of this. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this rag and just kind of smooth out those glue lines as best I can. Compress this in. Again, especially if you stain this a dark color, you're not going to see this, but there we go. That should really help solidify this piece in here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put, similar to what we did when we were gluing things together, I'm actually going to put something, I'll put our board here back on top, and I might get something a little bit heavier. It's been enough time here, so I'm going to go ahead and take off our hammer that we were using for the weight. Take off this other piece here, and there we have our first baffle. Now don't be too worried, this is pretty sturdy. We've got the glue dried on all the sides here, and again we put it on the back, like I had said when we came in. But when we go and fix the top too, we're going to put a glue bead on here and on the side, so we're going to have that pressure from the top piece as well, helping to hold things in place. Just want to make sure you have good glue coverage. Again, especially if we're only going to use glue as our only means of fastening. It, again, like I said, it does a really good job. A lot of the times it'll end up being stronger than mechanical fasteners, like screws or nails. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead, and I think right about there looks good. And we'll go ahead and press that in to place. Press it down, press it against the sides, and we've got our glue seeping out. So, I think we're pretty good. All right, we pretty much should be dry now. Take our weight off, take our cover off, and now we have our dual baffled dice. We can't put our front cover piece on just like this because there's no place for the dice to come out. So we actually need to cut a piece off the bottom here. So if we look at this, and I'm just kind of eyeballing here, let's see, we take probably, my guess is going to be about 2 inches or so off of this. That's not even a pen. So here we'll go about like right here-ish. Again, right about here. Cut that off. That'll leave an area for the dice to come out. How does that look? Right there. You know what? I mean, the good news is we can always cut off this amount, and if that's less and we decide we want to cut off more, we can always just cut off more. Alright, now we're starting to look a little bit like a dice tower. Huh? How about that? Not too shabby. So, now, this piece, we just need to trim off a little bit, because that'll be the width about that we want, so we just need to trim off basically a 1/2 inch to cover up the gap here, but I'll just use, just line this up and kind of take a little measurement there. And then I made a little mark, and then, again, repeat the same process. I was going to put this in here, but this is actually a little, now that I'm looking at it, cutting that off of it, we made it wide enough to fit in, but it's actually not wide enough to do what we need to do, which I'm realizing now. So, we might just have, we're going to use a piece of our 2.5 inch, which is actually the width of our material, which would have been the right call to do from the first place, but this is what we get for trial and error, and who knows, I may end up just cutting that bit out. So we'll go ahead and make a little mark. And we will cut the correct piece to the right width. So that is more like it. Now, we could probably just leave that in there, glue it in right like that. Let me zoom ourselves out just a tiny bit. We probably could just leave it in there right like that, but we've been doing that nice little miter bit in the back, so we'll probably do that here. And now, our dice roll out. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention at the start is you are going to need to buy some sandpaper to sand this down, unless you like the look where it kind of is rough, but we're going to try to make it again slightly more finished. And I don't know if you can see that, but we have like a little bit of a kind of a burr along the side. That's, ouch, careful, I just got a splinter doing that. But you can always just take a razor blade, and this is pretty thin wood, and just do something like this. You could do this with sandpaper if you want. I happen to have a razor blade here, and we can just kind of run it along that edge and sort of even up that a little bit here. And similar to what we had done before, we are going to go ahead and put some wood glue on the back, both sides, and then kind of press it in place. And now, because this one's being supported kind of on both sides, we could take, if you have rubber bands, you could get some really tight rubber bands and wrap it around, and that'll kind of give you your compression of a clamp. What I happen to have, I don't have any rubber bands with me right here, so what I'm going to do is take this piece of painter's tape and wrap it around the back and close this in as tight as I can, and just really kind of wrap the tape around. And that, I don't know if you could see, it didn't flex, it didn't move. I'm going to add a couple more pieces of tape here. All right, enough time has passed, so we'll go ahead and take off our tape here. Again, it's the glue, some of the glue is still drying, but it's held up enough that I feel comfortable to take the tape off. And there, we have the basis of our dice tower. So now, all that's really left to do is to take our final piece here and glue it right on the front. And that's what we're going to do right now. And place this right on the edge here. Press that down. And again, we want to kind of pull in the top. So go ahead and get it lined up on the one side exactly where you want it. Kind of up and down too. Right, exactly where you want it. And again, we can clean some of this up. I'm just going to put a piece on here to just kind of hold it like that. And then we can, again, if it's off a little bit, we can clean that up with some sanding. And then we want to kind of compress this side to get it in line with where we want it to be. And then kind of run our tape around so we have our piece exactly where we want it to be. Then we'll just let it dry. Hey folks, I started filming and I actually didn't really like the train or where that video was going, so I took the tape off of the dice tower. You may want to put something heavy on top just to help. Once you get it taped left and right where you want it so that it lines up, put something heavy on top of it just to keep that compression. But here it is. This is a pretty nice little piece we made for about a half an hour's worth of work, and probably $25 worth of both materials and tools. Again, we could stop right here, and anybody I feel like would be happy to have this. A homemade present is awesome. Right, I'll show you off a little spots here. The wood is a little rough right here, and you can see this yellow discoloration. I think you can see that. That's the glue, right? So we might want to take our sandpaper and just hand sand this down. If you have, again, an electronic or orbital sander or something like that, this will be quick work. You can just smooth it out real quick. It'll also allow you to kind of true up any edges. If something's a little bit longer in a spot than the other areas, you can just kind of use the sandpaper to even that out. This stuff is really easy to sand. We don't have a lot of material to go through, so a little bit on here with like 120 grit sandpaper, it'll clean up real quick, and we will do that. I have some dice here on the table, and my only sort of complaint about this is the dice come out at a really fast velocity. They come whipping out of there. And I have two theories onto why that could be. One, if you look down inside, you can kind of see, my finger moving down there, that the baffles don't really take up the entire space. And I did that so you could throw a whole handful of dice in and they wouldn't bind up. But I think if you look in there, we probably could have made both baffles about a half an inch longer, and you'd still have plenty of room for the dice, and that might help to arrest the momentum a little bit as they're coming down. We also made our piece on the bottom, our little ramp, at 45 degrees. And the reason we did that was because the only real sideways angle on our miter box that we have is 45 degrees. We could have possibly tried something funky with one of the 22.5 degree spots, but you know, if I was using my actual miter saw, we could have set this at 30 degrees and something of a little bit more shallow angle, the dice might not whip out so fast. Again, like I said, you don't even have to do any sanding or finishing, but the world is really your oyster when it comes to finishing. You could put a stain on this if you like a particular wood. I've seen there's a lot of really funky stains that they sell at like Home Depot and Lowe's where you could go and stain this black or red or blue or purple or orange or green. I don't really know how those stains work. I think it's a little bit of a process, but it's an option you could do if you wanted. Or you could just stick with like a natural stain. Again, I've said it before in my other videos, but not sponsored, obviously, but Minwax Special Walnut is my favorite stain. That's what all of the doors and any of the projects you've seen me do, I always use this stain. So I could put it on that. That'll darken this up a little bit. But this is also an oak, so this is a nice hard wood. We could just use some sort of clear lacquer or polyurethane. So I have some 3M 120 grit sandpaper here. But honestly, folks, one of the best places, and I don't know, I can't speak to all around the world, but some of the best places to get like sandpaper, especially for small jobs here in the US, is the Dollar Tree. You can go get a pack of 120 grit or different varieties of sandpaper for $1. So all I'm going to do is basically we want to sand with the grain, and I'm just going to take this piece of sandpaper and just go along till I get things smooth. Any kind of, again, if you feel like there's any spot where maybe one thing didn't, you kind of overstepped or didn't pull things in tight enough with the tape, you just want to kind of clean that up. Any spots where there was little rough edges from the saw, again, we have a little bit of a rough patch here in the wood itself. All we're going to do is just basically take it and sand it. Alright folks, that's it. You got all the sanding we needed. I don't have any tack cloth here, but you're just going to want to clean this up. You could use a vacuum if you have tack cloth or some sort of sticky material to help you remove all of the dust. That's going to be good if you are going to finish it. You're going to want to get rid of all that, otherwise you're going to get that in the finish. And again, if you're doing something like polyurethane, that's very finicky. So, all good. I printed this. This is using like photo dimensions. I took a 2x3 picture, printed it out. I've done my best to sort of eyeball the center and whether or not it's straight up and down that way and kind of level. I think it's pretty good. That I have the image I want on here. I've got a razor blade. This is a fresh blade, so it's nice and sharp. And basically what we're going to do is use the blade like a pencil and trace the logo. Okay, because all we're going to be doing is putting lines. We're not going to be like going in and filling things in. So we're just going to be tracing the outside of the logo on here. The knife pressing and kind of cutting on here will leave us enough of a line that when we get the wood burning tool, we can go ahead and follow up with that. Alright, wood burning tool all heated up. Let's go ahead and start doing this etching here. Alright, there we go. Well, now we're into our final phase here, which is just throwing some finish on it. So I wanted to go with originally a natural like oil to kind of bring out the natural grains of the red oak and not go with a walnut, but I went to just go get a Danish oil from Home Depot, and all they had was dark walnut Danish oil. So it seems I can't escape walnut. So this stuff's pretty easy. Shake it up pretty thoroughly. And then again, it's basically use a brush or a cloth, apply it on the whole thing, allow them to absorb it, let it sit for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, reapply, allowing another 15 minutes of penetration. Once that's done, wipe the whole thing off, and it should be good to go in about 8 to 10 hours. So that'll be good, because we can let that happen overnight. Alright, well, the last coat is on. Now we're just going to wipe off the excess, according to the instructions.
Now we just let that sit for 8 to 10 hours and then we're all done.
Here you can see we're pretty much done, but I did in fact have more than enough wood to make an entire second dice tower, so I did. And what's also important is this isn't even all of it, but there's still scrap wood left over. So I am wearing some rubber gloves, or I will be, because I did put a finish on this and it's not fully cured yet. So just to play it safe, we're going to wear these gloves. But you can see there's a slight differentiation in color, and that's because for this one I didn't use that Danish oil with the dark walnut. I just used a clear satin polyurethane. This is just a wipe-on kind. You just put this on a rag and just wipe it on. So this is more of the enhanced natural grain of the red oak as opposed to a slight walnut staining. Also, my printer seemed to print the Nerd Immersion logo slightly larger than it did on this one, so it is what it is. But full stop, I did not use the handsaw. I just did this really quick with my power tools, and honestly this took like 5 to 10 minutes to put this whole thing together because I'd already done it once. So changes I would make, if you're able to, cut the ramp on a 30-degree angle as opposed to a 45, and definitely go for 2.5-inch baffles. Now, I do want to show you the difference in the dice performance. So you'll see how fast the dice come out of this tower and how far they want to shoot, and also make sure you listen to the sound of the dice as they come down. You'll see they don't make as much of a click-clacking roll sound from here because of the ramps not being as long. The dice kind of can just go out, whereas here they have to kind of go over, back, and out. So listen, here we go. You can see the dice kind of shot out pretty far. I think you guys can see that. Let me just zoom it out a little bit so you can see. All right, here we go again. This is the original tower with the short baffles. All right, now let's try the new one. See, the dice don't go as far, and they have, I think this, in my opinion, the auditory sensation of them rolling is more pleasing in this one. And the dice don't want to shoot as far. So we're getting the original. Second. So there you go. So the important thing too is because I made 2 of these, I'll now have 2 things for the giveaway. So the first prize winner will get the original dice tower in the walnut with the custom set of RPG dice. And here are the custom dice from RPG Dice. So these are again a sort of peppermint candy cane red and white coloration with green font. You can see you're going to get your standard D20, your D12, you'll get 2 D10s, your percentile dice here. You'll get a regular D6. Oh, here's your D8 over here. You'll get the RPG Dice Custom Pip Design D6, which has a different than your standard pip design. And then you'll get your standard pyramid-shaped D4, as well as the custom crystal-shaped D4. And as part of that, you'll also get this little token that has the RPG Dice logo made in the same mixture as the rest of the dice. And the second place winner will get the other dice tower here, obviously, once the finish has completely cured. So, this will be open internationally to any folks who want to enter. I'm going to activate that giveaway. As you're seeing this video, there'll be a link in the description with the giveaway being live. Today is the 3rd of February, and I will have this giveaway run for just over a week. So this will end at 11:59 p.m. on Friday, February 12th, and then I'll try to ship it out if I can that Saturday morning, the 13th. Also, I would love if you guys go out of your way and do make one of these yourselves for significant others, just for yourself or whatever. I'd love it if you would tag me on whatever social media you posted on so I can see how yours came out. Again, this is a very simplistic design, and the reason I chose what I did for it is that we had the least amount of waste and least amount of work for people who don't have tools to rip boards down and things like that. Hopefully you all enjoyed this episode of This Old Dungeon as we built our dice towers here. I do have plans that I'm going to be working on to do another dice tower. This one will be a plexiglass dice tower that will be more Plinko style, where you can see the dice kind of Plinkoing down rather than the traditional wood tower. So that'll be coming in the future. So if you're looking for that, We could do that again. Always remember you could put a piece of plexiglass on the front as opposed to the wood, but that also means you need to do a lot better job keeping things clean on the inside because everyone will be able to see all the lines and things that you make. So, thanks for watching. Nerd Immersion has got a video for just about everything Dungeons & Dragons, so be sure to check out the others. And if you like what you see, click on the subscribe button and get our newest videos right in your feed.